Okay, welcome everybody to the next edition of Putting the Human in Technology. Today I am joined by Tree Hall. Tree is the CEO of Charity IT Leaders. Welcome, Tree. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for the invitation. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you very much. Awesome. We're really glad to have you, and I'm really looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So we'll jump straight into it. Start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your organisation and what you do. That'll be
Thank
great.
you. So let's start with me, and I can cut to the chase there very quickly. Most of my career has been in the not-for-profit sector. My specialism is not technology, although you might think so because of the organisation I currently work for. But my background is really events, marketing, fundraising, and all of that side of working in a charity. I took a career break when I had my children and was really fortunate when I came back into the workplace after that career break. I had a number of opportunities that eventually led to me working at Charity IT Leaders. And I've got to say, I've been here now at CITL, which is our short form name, been here for over 5 years, and it is honestly the best job in the world. It's just amazing. Our role as an organisation is to support other charities and not for profits in getting the best out of their investment in technology and digital. Technology and digital can do so much for individuals and for organisations, and it can empower charities to do incredible things for their beneficiaries. But if you don't leverage that investment that you make, you don't get the best out of it. And that's what we want to help all charities and not for profits to do, to really see the benefits of that investment, to empower their people to be the best that they can possibly be in their roles, but really just to have the greatest impact that they can possibly have. And the people I work with are phenomenal. They're so dedicated and committed to not just their jobs, but to the wider sector. And I can honestly say that the community that we have at CITL is our biggest benefit for our members. And that community is so helpful, so supportive, so collaborative. We really problem solve together as a unit, and we share and empower each other. And there's a real sense of we don't lift ourselves, we lift the whole sector by working
Yes, the
together in
whole
the way
stuff.
that we do.
So just tell anyone who's listening or anyone who's watching the record, Tree, how do you go about supporting those not-for-profit and charity organisations in because IT is a significant investment for any organisation and for charities where budgets are often tight and limited. I guess I'm going to say rinsing every CPU cycle to drive value for the business is kind of key. What type of stuff do you do to empower those IT leaders to achieve what they need to achieve to drive their organization on the budgets that they've got?
That's a great question. Thank you. So we look at how we can help in the broadest possible sense. The way that we do most of that is through events and the content that we share predominantly. We have a big annual conference once a year. Excuse me. Sorry about the cough. It's going to come occasionally in
That's
this
okay, not to
conversation.
worry.
So sorry to anyone who's listening. Um, our annual conference is in October each year, 2.5 days of workshops, masterclasses, case studies, um, intensive 3 hour sessions about a particular topic. It's all about the community, it's about sharing not just technical knowledge and expertise, but also the leadership and the organisational skills that need to sit behind technology and digital as well. We do a number of online events. We have a members area in Teams, which has got all of our resources and content in there. And that's a real space for conversation and collaboration as well. And we have a really thriving and vibrant WhatsApp community where
Oh, cool.
members will post questions in there, ask for recommendations or suggestions. When we had the CrowdStrike outage a little bit earlier in the year, within half an hour of that hitting national news, there were members posting solutions and how-tos and fix-its and workarounds in there.
Yeah,
And that's
cool.
what I mean about the community. It's just that sense of coming together, and there's no sense of competition. People are just
Yeah,
collaborating. So
and
we
working together.
create space, I think, for that knowledge share and that education piece, but also just for people to come together. And we've had events referred to as great big group therapy sessions. Our conference, people say it's like being at a family wedding in a good way. not with the fights and arguments that can come at a family wedding. So what we do is to try and bring together experts in our sector, also experts from outside of our sector, suppliers, all the people who can add value to those conversations.
Yeah.
And as much as the knowledge share, it's about brokering relationships, and it's about enabling people to fill their network and fill their contact book with the people that they need to be able to ring up or email in a crisis or when they need a solution for something.
Cool. So for those out there that might be in that not-for-profit charity sector space, if they wanted to get involved with you guys, is there any way we can signpost them to go and get more information or get in touch, or and what's is it just connect with you on LinkedIn?
Connect with me on LinkedIn or connect with Claire Jago. That's CLAIRE, and Jago is JAGO. Claire is our business manager and does all of the amazing networking and support for our members. So yeah, connect with either of us on LinkedIn or email admin@charityitleaders.org.uk, and one of us will pick up that email and get back to you. Or if somebody wants to apply for membership, there is a membership application form on the website. Just go and have a look at the members page there and you'll be able to get in touch with us. But we would love to hear from people. The more people that are in our network, the more value we can add for everybody who's there.
Yeah, rising tide raises all boats, and all that sort of stuff that goes with it. Just out of curiosity, how big is the membership now? It sounds like it's quite large already. Is it growing all the time, I would envisage?
It is growing all the time. We are at about 120 member organisations now. But there's an awful lot more charities out there who are sort of in our sweet spot of the type of organisations where we can make the most impact. So we would love to hear from more people. And ultimately, what we'd like to be able to do is to extend the benefit and the value that we add for our members beyond that membership, because there are things that we can do for the wider sector, maybe for smaller micro charities who maybe don't have an IT or tech professional working, and it's an office manager or somebody who's expected to look after all of the technology. We can add value there as well. So we've got big ambitions to be able to help more and more organisations.
Cool, awesome. Sounds like a dynamic and vibrant place to work, and I suspect you get lots of interesting sort of use cases and stuff coming through as well. And I guess everyone uses technology slightly differently, all using the same product, probably all in slightly different ways. So getting that perspective can be tremendously valuable, I would have thought. Brilliant, cool. Okay, so that leads me then nicely into our sort of second question, and you can put your own spin on this. The question, I'll just read out what I've got written down here because it'll save me getting it wrong. But can you share how technology and data have transformed your organization's approach to achieving its mission? Now, you don't have to be specifically to CITL. It could be for your members.
The wider sector.
Yeah.
So our mission, the reason that we were kind of created 25 years ago, and we were created by charities for charities, was very much around that piece about enabling charities to get the best out of their investment in technology and data. Now, when we were first founded, we were talking much more about IT than necessarily technology or digital or data. But obviously, over 25 years, language changes, technology evolves. We've seen the rise of specialist digital pathways in terms of career and the roles that people have in organisations. So I think one of the things that's changed for us is how technology is perceived and how it is seen, both within the sector and without of the sector. Although we are very much about helping charities and not-for-profits to get the best from their tech investment, we are not just a technology organisation. So we don't just look at what the technology is, what the technical expertise is that people need to have. That's one element of technical success and technical excellence. But we also look at the organisational and the business skills that wrap around that. So we look at things like negotiating, contract management, leadership skills, how to sit at that top table in an organisation and represent technology in the way that it needs to be represented. And something that we've seen with our members, but also more widely, is that still, and it's frustrating, many CEOs and many directors or heads of or chiefs of around that top table are still very uninformed about digital and technology. And whereas no one would ever sit at that, in that C-suite and say, I don't really get finance, or I don't really get HR and people, they're still very willing to say, well, I don't really do digital. I don't really understand technology. And technology doesn't have that perception of professionalism or importance or significance that perhaps other disciplines have.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that we do is to advocate, and we had a great session at our recent annual conference with Andrew Lennox from Guide Dogs, who's the CEO there, talking about why CEOs should make sure that their CIOs or CTOs or whatever the C space O is, why those people should be sitting at that top table. And it was a really compelling presentation. And Andrew was talking about the fact that you need that expertise because technology and digital is at the heart of every organisation now. You cannot achieve what you want to achieve as an organisation without technology and digital as the engine behind that. And that doesn't mean that those tech and digital teams have to own every piece of tech and digital in the organisation, but it does mean that you need them at that top table to be the strategic voice, to be the experts in the room who can advise, who can talk about the pitfalls and the benefits, about how to leverage the best out of those investments. And still, we don't always see that happening. So for us, one of our goals, one of the things that's changed is advocating with charities to help lift the role of technology professionals within their respective organisations. And, it's not universal across the sector that people aren't at that C-suite level, but they should be, especially in the bigger organisations, because you just don't get the best out of your technology if it's not being led from the top.
Yeah, I think you get that buy-in. I think going back when I started, because people probably who are listening perhaps know a little bit about my background, but when I started as a technologist 25 years ago, the organisations I worked for, which were probably more public sector at that time, I think IT was definitely seen as a cost function, something that costs, that doesn't add value necessarily, or didn't see it as a value add function. And that, I think that has changed in those organisations over the years. And the organisations I do work for now, it's definitely getting there. And I actually spoke to Andrew. Actually, I've invited him on as a guest, and he said yes. And then I haven't heard of him since. So I'll have to follow up, and that's more on me not following up, I suspect. So hopefully we'll have Andrew on in the new year. But it definitely has. Yeah, it definitely has changed over time, and across all industries. I think some are better than others, and I guess with charity, there's still perhaps a little bit of, and I guess medium-sized charities to perhaps larger charities, they're not all the same. You can't say they're all doing it this way, but I guess there perhaps is a lag compared to other sectors where they've kind of embraced it and digitally transformed, for want of a better way of saying it, embrace the technology as something that can enable them to deliver.
It's really interesting when you said digitally transformed and you put inverted commas around it, because I think the language that we use around digital and technology is so important. And my husband, who, funnily enough, is the CIO at Guide Dogs, which is one of the reasons why we were able to secure Andrew to speak at our conference. One of the things that he gets frustrated about is the fact that we still talk about digital transformation, because it's not digital, it's organisational. And the problem is, I think, when we talk about digital transformation or technological transformation, there's a perception then that is something that is being transformed in the back office, in the kind of the engine room of the organisation. But we have to be seeing anything that is driven by digital or technology as an organisational change. And that organisational change has to be owned by everybody, because it's only when you get everyone on board and being part of that journey that you really start to see the benefits of the investment, both in terms of money and resource internally. So we need to think about the language that we use. And I think another challenge that we have is that people often talk about digital and technology as being two completely separate disciplines.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think they are. I think there's a lot of ways you could describe them. Two sides of the same coin, two
Yeah.
ends of the pantomime horse, depending which analogy you want to use.
I like the latter.
Very seasonally appropriate there with the pantomime horse. But I don't think you can have digital without technology.
Yeah.
And now you can't have technology without digital.
Yeah.
But when you talk about them as two separate disciplines, it almost creates a tension and an unnecessary competition between the two.
Yeah.
Whereas when you bring them into alignment, that's again when you start to see the best out of both elements of that professionalism. And I think that's why we've kind of coined the term. I don't know if we can say that we really created the term. Maybe we did, but we talk very much about digital technology as one phrase now, because
Right.
we're trying to create that sense of understanding and collaboration.
Yeah.
Silos never work.
No.
Silos are never helpful in an organisation. So we definitely should not be siloing disciplines and professionalisms that are so closely interlinked and intertwined.
Cool. Well, I think that's that's a great way of looking at it. I think is how I would describe that, and it probably segues in nicely to the to the third question I'm going to ask you. Believe it or not, is it's all about challenge and the biggest challenge organisations have faced when it comes to implementing new technologies and how they can overcome those challenges.
Oh, now that's a hard one because I don't know what I would necessarily put down as the biggest challenge. So I'm going to cheat on this question slightly, and I'm going to wrap a few things in together because, again, I think you can't necessarily pull some of these things apart. I think one of the challenges that we have in the not-for-profit sector is that compared to our colleagues in the commercial sector, we are very often not as cash rich. So when we see emerging technologies, when we see new things coming out, we're on the horizon when we're doing our horizon scanning, we don't have the resource to be able to invest in them at the very beginning. And AI is a great example of that. I mean, actually, AI is not a particularly new technology. It's been around for years. But over the last 18 months, 2 years, we have seen an explosion in the way people are talking about AI. But if you are an organisation that doesn't have a huge budget to be able to throw at it, you might feel that you're going to be left behind. So that financial constraint is a really difficult one for organisations. And one of the ways that we try and get around that is within our community. Because if we can share use cases, if we can share learnings, if we can share not just the stuff that's gone right, but more often the stuff that's gone wrong is helpful. If we can share all of that and get that knowledge out there, then people can learn from that and they can implement and move much faster on the new technologies because they've got the benefit of this shared learning and experience. So that is a big challenge. I think another challenge that we have is we've got a skill shortage in the sector. And again, in a large degree, that comes down to financial constraints. We cannot offer salaries in some areas that can sit alongside the salaries that get offered in the commercial sector. And so we lose out on candidates. I know of many of our members who've been recruiting for roles and they just can't get candidates to even see an interview because the salary bands are just not matching up with what people can secure in the commercial sector. But I think as a sector, we have huge things that we can offer people instead of necessarily the big bucks. And let's be honest, we're not paying bad salaries. We're paying living salaries. We're paying good salaries, just not perhaps what's at commercial level. But we can offer flexible working. We can offer really inclusive and accessible working environments. We can offer a real sense of value and purpose in what people are doing within their organisation. And I think for us as a sector, if we think creatively about the way that we recruit for these roles, where we're seeing challenges in identifying candidates, if we're creative about the way that we talk about the other benefits that we have, and almost take salary out of the equation as the leading factor that people are looking for. If we highlight the other things that we can offer and think about recruitment in a different way, we could potentially open up opportunities to huge markets of people who are currently maybe excluded from what we're looking at in terms of our candidate pool. There are lots of highly skilled, highly talented people out there who can't work a full-time job because they've got caring responsibilities. There are people who perhaps have neurodivergent children who are struggling to access school, and they need really flexible working patterns so that they can be there and support their children.
Yeah.
Those people are not going to apply for full-time jobs where they have to be in an office 9 to 5. But if we can be creative about the way that we market those jobs, thinking about, rather than the hours that people work, the things that they have to achieve and deliver, if we can be flexible about location and working patterns, suddenly those jobs do become accessible to that big cohort of people. So I think there is a solution to that challenge as well. The other
That's
thing
interesting take, actually, yeah.
The other thing I think is a problem, and I've sort of alluded to it, is the way that technology is perceived. I don't think that technology is given the same degree of respect or credibility as a professional career choice as, say, something like accountancy and finance or HR. And so what we want to do at CITL is to look at how we can help people professionalise. And by that, I'm just to be really clear, I'm not saying that people who work in tech and digital aren't professional, because they absolutely are. But it's the career pathway that I don't think has the same recognition as a professionalism. So we need to think about how we can combat that. And we need to do that by focusing people on professional development. We need to focus on the continual learning that people need to have in their roles. We also need to look at creating really rounded professionals who not only have the technical and digital expertise that they need, but who've got that organisational expertise and the business acumen that they need as well. Because more and more, as digital technology leaders, people need to be able to strategize, to set budgets, to have that organisational perspective and see how digital technology is driving everything else that an organisation does. To be a technical leader now, it's not enough to be a technical expert. You have to be a business expert as well. So by building people up and helping them to develop those skills and practice those skills and become really, really good at seeing that organisational picture and how digital technology can help drive the organisation forward, that's how we help people get to those really senior roles. And that's how we help build the credibility of digital technology as a career choice as well.
Cool. Okay. So, can I just recap? Because I think I've got a couple of questions there. One of the biggest challenges you say is perhaps recruitment, not necessarily retaining people, because the people I've spoken to, and granted, I haven't spoken to everybody, so this is just my small little sample. There's lots of people who go to work for not-for-profits and charities. They seem to be there and in the business for a long time in different roles, doing different things, because I think they, as you said, there's a lot of good benefits that come with working with those types of organizations, even if the salary isn't commercially, competing commercially with an insurance company down the road. So I do find there's like lots of people there. But I guess in terms of getting people through the door, it's potentially put off because they can potentially see a job in a different sector which pays more money. And I think you probably are right. I also think it's and I'm kind of join these up a little bit, because I loved what you said around the sort of the untapped market, where how these jobs are getting pitched and advertised, and 5 days a week, 9 to 5 in this place is probably broken now. I don't think that really works for a whole lot of people, and I don't think anyone wants to go and do that. So everyone's after that since the pandemic and lockdown. I think everyone's kind of after that. But if you, as you say, if you market the job and promote the job and project the job as being something different to that, which does open up the flexibility for that untapped market, you can fill it with some really really good people, which I think is excellent. But I also would take that a stage further in there might be, you mentioned you need both the technology skills and the business skills. And for people who are on a career path coming into the sector, can probably help them develop one or the other. Probably the business skills, I would say. You might have a technology person who might be really good and wants to develop those skills. And to get a job, you need experience with the business side of things. And you can't get that when you're working as a DBA or a sysadmin or a programmer or whatever. So they, if they're like, oh, well, I'm going to come and do this, and it'll broaden my technology base, and it'll give me some of these other stuff which can help me on my career journey as well. So I think you are right. I think the way you pitch it, you could end up opening up quite a big pool of talent that you can utilize.
I hope so, because I think not only will that help us as a sector to deal with some of those skills shortages that we're seeing, but I think morally and ethically as a sector, we should be doing all that we can to make our workforces as accessible as possible for marginalised communities that face huge barriers to the workplace. And neurodivergence is a particular interest of mine. I'm neurodivergent, openly autistic ADHD, got autistic ADHD kids. So I'm thinking about the future for them. And that's a particular area that I focused on. But that's by no means the only marginalised community. And if we were to think really creatively about what barriers different communities are facing and think about how the opportunities that we currently have could be tweaked slightly, or even the language that we use to describe them, or the way that we package them up as opportunities, if we can represent some of them, reframe them, suddenly we make them attractive and accessible for those communities. And I think we do have a moral and an ethical imperative to be looking at how we can do that.
It's a great thing to do. Do you as your organisation, in terms of supporting your wider members, do you have I don't want to say recruitment, but do you like have a jobs board where people can go, look, I'm after this type of person. If you know anybody come in, have you got that kind of networking thing going on as well? Is that there?
So we have a Teams environment for all of our members, right, which is only accessible to members, and we do have a jobs board in there. We did have a jobs board on our website for quite a number of months, but we found that we just weren't getting enough people pushing the opportunities through to us. So we were having to go out and look at, what are people recruiting for and post it up there.
Gotcha.
I would be more than happy to reinstate that jobs board on the website if it was useful. But we do see people posting things in the Teams instance. And I think the other side of it would be, can we also get people posting, asking for opportunities? Now, I know that's difficult to do in a community such as ours, where the likelihood is that you might say that you're looking for your next role as a data analyst or as a BA. You can't really post that in the community because you know that your manager's there and you haven't told them that you're thinking about moving on. But if there was some way of creating ways for people to post that anonymously and, be more proactive in the kind of things that people are looking for, I just think as far as recruitment goes, we've got to think about doing it differently, because it isn't. I don't think it works at the moment.
Fair enough. Well, that's probably I think that's very much a fair point. Right, brilliant.
It's a whole other podcast as well. I could talk for a long time about the ways that we need to change recruitment, but that's not what this podcast is about.
Well, I don't know. We can go off on a tangent. We have some time, because it's like having run my business for the last 20 or so years, and having used various different recruitment agents for various different things across the board. I see how that works from a sort of like finding a contracts kind of perspective, which isn't necessarily anywhere near the same thing. But I do know a fair few recruiters who kind of specialize in various technology areas and that type of platform. And there's been kind of this push for change, but nothing seems to ever sort of take effect. You always fall back to the same. You always fall back to I guess the norm. I guess everything returns to the norm, and I haven't noticed any significant change in it since I started working 20 years ago. So, with the advent of maybe LinkedIn and the sort of networking elements,
I think things are changing, and they're changing in a number of different ways. I mean, you've got fantastic organisations like Ambitious About Autism, who've developed an amazing employer's guide. If you want to recruit differently, if you want to think about how to make roles and interviews and the workplace more accessible for neurodivergent candidates, their employer's guide is a fantastic place to start. So you've got organisations who are not recruiters, but doing an awful lot in that space to increase awareness and knowledge and understanding and provide toolkits to help people do things in a way that is more accessible for a number of different communities. I have conversations with a number of different recruitment agencies in the role that I'm in because they're so integral to the tech space and in finding great candidates for the roles that we have. And I think all of them are doing much, much more to try and make roles more accessible and inclusive for different communities and different types of candidate. What I don't think we're seeing is a wholesale joined up approach to that. And I think that's maybe what's missing. There are also agencies out there who specialise in recruiting neurodivergent talent or supporting disabled candidates into roles. And that's really important. But again, we're not seeing that as a step change across the whole of the way that we recruit. And it's that, I think, that's the problem. If there was a way of creating a single movement to make those changes right the way across the board, that's where we would see that big sweeping change that you're talking about. And there's a great example of a movement out there that's doing it, but in a slightly different space. I don't know if you're aware of Joining the Dots and Freddie Queck.
No, I'll write that down. I'll have a look later.
Freddie would be an amazing person to speak to on this podcast, and I have no doubt that he would do it because he's an absolute force of nature. Freddie, he's a lovely, lovely man. Freddie is passionate about. I'll remind me after this, and I'll connect you on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Freddie is passionate about challenging digital poverty and bridging the gap between digital have and digital have not, because digital exclusion is a big problem. Not everybody has access to digital technology, and yet it's so embedded in pretty much everything that we do these days that if you don't have that access, it cuts you off from so many other services and support networks. So Freddie has a hashtag, Joining the Dots, and he's working with so many people now. And what Joining the Dots has done is to bring together all of these individuals and organisations who were doing things in their own space to challenge digital inequality, and it's coalesced them behind this movement. So they're all still doing their own things, but they're doing it under the umbrella of Joining the Dots. And it's made it a much more powerful and significant voice because you've got all of these organisations and individuals who are now unified behind the hashtag Joining the Dots. And it's just amazing what he's been able to achieve. And Freddie is posting. I can't keep up with all the stuff that he's posting about, the wins here and the steps forward there. And I think we need, we need a similar movement in recruitment, I think, to change the way that we do it, to make recruitment as a whole much more accessible and inclusive, and to bring all of the great initiatives that different agencies and different individual recruiters and also organisations who recruit on their own back and don't use agencies, to bring together all of that great practice and that innovation and just kind of share it and make it more commonplace. You can tell I'm quite passionate about this.
Yeah, I can indeed. Did you say Freddie Queck?
Yeah, Freddie Queck.
I'll get you to introduce me after. I'm definitely keen to talk to Freddie, and it sounds like there's plenty of work to do, but things are slowly nudging in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely
cool.
They are.
Okay, well, this leads us to the last. It's not even the last proper question. It's the last question in and around data and technology, and it's hopefully a nice question. Kind of like, it's that type of year, isn't it? Ghost of Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future. So Christmas future, how do you see the data and technology shaping the not-for-profit sector going forward? And I suspect there's quite a big answer in here as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not known for my brevity, so but I'll try and keep it on track. I think data and digital technology have the potential to transform what we can achieve as a sector. I think one of the barriers to that is that at the moment we are looking to technology tools like AI to solve some of the problems that we have with processes, with protocols, with systems within our organizations. Now, data and technology are transformative. But before we can start to see the benefits of that transformation, we've got to get the basics right. And that means we've got to have our data strategies in place. We've got to make sure that we know what data we have, that it's clean, that we have it in the right place, that it is organized properly, and that our systems and AI can access it in the right way so that we can use it to be making really informed and clever decisions. Similarly, with technology, we have to be looking at things like technical debt. We have to be investing properly in the business as usual, in the standard systems that everybody expects to have. But if we don't keep investing in them, they will reach a point where they just fall over and they don't work anymore. So we've got to be investing in the basics, and we've got to be getting the basics and the foundations right to be able to then see data and technology shaping the things that we do in the future. And I think the potential for us as a sector is that as we become better at using our data to inform and direct decision making, we will be able to be much more efficient and much cleverer in the decisions that we make. As we implement technology and increase efficiencies, we will be able to reduce some of the things like double data entry, some of those inefficiencies about the way that we check things and we manage processes. We'll be able to streamline and make a lot of that more efficient. That means that we will free up people to be able to do the more innovative, creative stuff, because technology is never going to replace people. People are the heart of everything that we do, and technology supports that rather than replaces it. One of the hard truths that I think we have to face is that those efficiencies that technology can help us achieve may come at the cost of some jobs. And it would be disingenuous to pretend that it couldn't impact in that way. But as charities and not-for-profits, we have to be looking really carefully at how we spend our money, at how we invest, at how we utilise the resources that we have. And if we can streamline in that way, if there are some roles that technology can do more efficiently and more effectively, that's a hard pill to swallow, but I think we need to be prepared for that. But what we have to do as well is we have to look at the people whose roles are affected in that way and look at how we can support them into moving into those other roles that now become available because technology has freed them up in that way.
Freed them up to do something else,
Yeah. So I think we have to be realistic. We shouldn't fudge this when we talk about the impact of technology and data. But we have to prepare for it. We have to support people to prepare for it. And that might be looking at upskilling, changing their skill set, looking at new roles and opportunities, and thinking about the way that we deliver services. And are there new services or opportunities that we have that technology and data and digital now enable us to deliver?
Yeah.
I tried to keep that relatively short.
It was relatively short. I'm the lost jobs thing. I'm very much of the school of I think, as you just said, it'll free up the repetitive, mundane work and allow those people to focus on more value add type tasks. So I do tend to fall into that camp, and I do tend to say, people have asked me previously, do you think AI is going to take my job? And I'll say probably not. It might change how you do your job, but I don't think it's going to be taking your job. And I'm very much in that camp. So it's kind of interesting to see how you approach it. And as you say, with the cost restrictions, I don't know if that's the right word, but with the need to make rinse value out of every last penny, I can see why that would be impactful in the or a necessary thing to do in the charity sector. So that's pretty cool. Brilliant. Now I'm gonna ask you one other question about AI, because you said in your community, you've talked about it, and how potentially new technology and emerging technology, not for profits, might shy away from, because usually it can be quite costly, particularly upfront. Have you got, and I don't expect you to tell like organizations and stuff, but have you got any good examples where not for profits have used it for doing something pretty unique that you could share, or is that still like a work in progress?
There are examples, and there are a couple that I'm thinking of, but before I sort of talk in detail, I'd want to go away and check with some of our members that it's all right to share.
That's fine. And I wasn't expecting names. I was like sort of like generic overviewy type stuff. But if it's gonna breach confidentiality stuff, don't worry, it's okay. It was just more.
Well, I mean, kind of top level. I think technology is going to transform the way people live their lives. If you think about visual impairment, for instance, there are now Ray-Bans. I believe it's Ray-Ban. Sorry if I'm shouting out for the wrong brand here. That are AI enabled.
Okay.
That technology is coming down the line in the next few years to be readily available. And that's technology that will enable the wearer to get AI generated information about their environment around them. And I think that is a great example of how technology could be life-changing. And that's a really exciting, wizzy opportunity. But there are other things which are perhaps less sexy than that, but are equally transformative for organizations. And I think what we have to do with AI is just think big, really, about what would we as organizations want to be able to deliver for our beneficiaries. What would be the ultimate gift that we could give our beneficiaries in terms of delivery, and think about how AI, but also every other element of digital technology, can help us get to that place. Because I kind of think that as charities, our ultimate goal should kind of be to make ourselves not needed anymore. We should all be aiming to be doing such a great job for the communities that we serve that we almost make ourselves obsolete because that problem isn't there anymore. And it would be really exciting to think that digital technology could help us all get closer to that goal. Now, the reality is, and I can't think of a single charity that I have known or worked with, the reality is that we are never going to be obsolete. But if we had that as a goal, if we were trying to get closer to that, to the point where we weren't needed because we'd solved that problem in the community and in our society, wouldn't that be amazing?
You certainly would. You certainly would. Cool. Thanks, Tree. Now we've got one last question left. Well, it's kind of four really, but you get to pick either which one, or you can roll your answer up into an answer or four in one go. So this is the fun sort of closing question, right? And the first one is, tell us an interesting fact about yourself that most people wouldn't know. The second one is, if you weren't working in technology, what other career or profession would you see yourself doing? The best piece of career advice you've ever been given, or what advice would you give your younger self just starting out? Feel free to answer as many of them as you wish.
Right, I'm going to try and answer
in the 10 minutes we've got left. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'm going to try and answer all four of them, and I'm going to try and do it as a story that leads from one question to the next. So we'll see how we go with this. So an interesting fact about me that most people don't know, and I'm going to age myself terribly here. I was once in an episode of Brookside, and this is when I was at university. Yeah, I was. It wasn't a speaking role. I don't have my SAG card or equity card. But there was a scene, for anybody who watched it, there was a scene when, gosh, what were they called? The brother and sister, and they had a very dubious relationship.
I'm going to confess, I've never watched Brookside, in truth, ever. No, it's not one of the ones that I'm fully aware of what it is, and I'm sure that's the episode where someone got buried under a patio in a major sort of controversial storyline.
There was a patio storyline, yeah. This wasn't that storyline. I appeared as a waitress, excuse me, when the brother and sister were having a coffee in a local restaurant, and I actually lived in the flat above that cafe and worked as a waitress there. So I appeared in an episode of Brookside. But
Awesome.
see how I'm going to link this to the next one. That is not the career or profession that I could see myself doing if I wasn't working in technology. If I wasn't working in technology, and I have to be honest, I would say I'm technology adjacent rather than technology, because I'm not a tech professional.
No.
But
you
if I
work in the
didn't have
industry.
this role, if I didn't have this role, I would be doing more of my side hustle. So I have another organisation that is my business called Neuronique, and through that I do speaking, coaching, consultancy, training, all around neurodivergence in the workplace, both for people who are or think they might be neurodivergent, for colleagues and peers. And really, that's my other passion, is trying to change the world of work so it's more accessible for people like my kids and their generation coming up and following in my footsteps. And I just don't want them to have the same challenges that I had. So that would be my other profession if I wasn't doing this.
So give us the name of that business again. Give us the name of that business again, your side hustle.
It's called Neuronique. Neuronique. And you'll find it on my LinkedIn profile.
LinkedIn. Brilliant.
Yeah, so I'm on there. Best piece of career advice I've ever been given is don't give up. And that links into the previous question, because even 18 months ago, I would never have seen myself having my own business, let alone running it alongside the best day job in the world. But I didn't give up, and I had the dream of doing it, and I've made it happen. And Neuronique is still in its infancy. I'm definitely loving the challenge of building it up and doing more with it. Really enjoying the juggling act of that and the day job, but never ever give up. Have your dream and keep going for it.
Brilliant.
And advice for my younger self, I mean, I would say this for anybody in any industry, not just IT or tech, is don't go it alone. The power of networks cannot be underestimated. And it doesn't matter what level you're at in your career. It doesn't matter whether you are in your first job or your last job. Networks are everything. Because when something goes wrong, you want a network of people that you can reach out to, either for a shoulder to cry on or for some advice and solutions. When things are going brilliantly, you want a network of people who can share in that success and get as excited as you are about that success. When you're looking for your next role, you need that network. When you're looking to build your team, you need that network. So find the ways to make connections and do it in a way that works for you. Networking doesn't have to be about going to huge events and walking up to great big crowds of people and introducing yourself and holding the room. There are different ways to network to suit different personality types and different levels of confidence. But get out there and do it, because without that network, you're going to find it an awful lot harder to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve in your career.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Brilliant. Cool. Awesome. Oh, well, I think that's the 4 questions answered, Tree. Thank you very, very much for coming on. That does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you very, very much for coming on and being a guest. There's some really, really useful pieces of information for everybody, from people starting out in the industry to people trying to drive their charity and not-for-profit forward. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming on. Have a lovely Christmas, and please put me in touch with Freddie and all the other people who you said it'd be good to get on the show. We'll get them on in the new year. But thank you very much for coming on.
Great. No, thank you, and happy Christmas to you, your family, and to everyone that's watching the podcast. Thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Tree. And then from me, everybody, this will be the last show this year. We'll see you in the new year. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.